Okay, gewaldig. So today is Chulin Daf Chof Ches, and we're going to start Chof Zayin Amid Beis. I think we're going to start over the Gemara, about 8 lines from the bottom. Rab Yudah Mishum Rab Yitzchak ben Pinchas. Ein Shchita la'oif min ha'Torah. That Shchita la'oif is b'chlal not midaraisa. Shenemar v'shafach. The pasuk says by right. We have this pasuk of we're gonna work through this pasuk anyway. So let's see the pasuk inside. There's a pasuk by Kisei Adam, right? And Kisei Adam is famously only by a chaya and a oif, not by a behema. Why is that? Why is Kisei Adam only by a chaya and a oif and not by a behema? What would you say? Keep short. Pshat is pashut. I mean, obviously there's but Baal Batish, you could say very simple because behemoths are slaughtered at home, right? So that obviously you're going to take care of. You'll already cover up. It's not going to be anywhere. But mashenkin, a chaya is a wild animal, and a oif, which is something you're going to trap somewhere out there, and you're going to leave the blood all over the place. That is Torah Kisau Bafa, right? That's the Pashta Pshat. And why by Chaya, and obviously it's possible somebody could be farming deer like you have nowadays, and you can have somebody who's farming even chickens as Amud Nazach. But bikaron, that's what it is, right? A chaya and a oif are wild animals that are in the wild, and they were geshachted in the wild. Mashenkin a behema is at home. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, b'kitzur. But bottom line is, so it says over there, v'shafach es damei v'chisou ba'afar. So v'shafach es damei, just shafach es damei, just be shafach. Now, so what does it mean? So if you hold ein shvich, there's an obvious problem. There's a basic problem. If you hold that ein shchita loif min ha'Torah, so then what's the problem? We know that there's a concept of a nivlas oiftar. There's a whole parsha in the Torah of a nivlas oiftar, and so what differentiates between a treifa and an nevela? Right. This is the problem. We know for sure that there is a difference between a treifa and a nevela, right? So what is the definition of right now, the difference between treifa and nevela is shchita, right? But if there's ein shchita loif min ha'Torah, so midai raisa, what is the differentiation between treifa and a nevela? That is that's the obvious question. So there's what? No, again, kisei dam is what you're going to do with the blood, but this animal. This animal, is this animal a treifa or is it a nevela? Right? An animal that dies, roadkill. What is that? That's,
what do you do if there's no shchita?
Minatayra, you eat it without shchita, right? You eat it without shchita. So the question is, so a korchach, there has to be some sort of a ma'isa. There has to be some sort of a differentiation between what? So the lashon of Gemara is b'shvicha sagi, and the Gemara is going to later on talk about nechira say zuhi shchitasai. That's going to be the Gemara on the bottom. On the bottom line, we'll jump to the bottom. It says nechira say zuhi shchitasai. Nechira is where somebody cuts the opposite way. Instead of cutting the shchita by the neck this way, nechira is cutting that way, right? That is somehow, that's nechirasei zuhi shchitasei. But there obviously is a process. So let's go through the Rashi over here. This is an important Rashi. Yeah? Rashi says that just a half of the Rashi, the big wide line, ve'ein nivlas, Rashi bothered by this kasha, ve'ein nivlas oif kuruya nevela, ela imke mesa me'elao, oi harga b'maka, shaloy ayidei simanim. Aval nechira, oi ikor, simanim kashabai. So Rashi learns that to differentiate between a treifa and a nevela is what? Is if it was killed through the simanim or not. That's Rashi. It's the simanim. The Rajba, the mashal, the Rajba holds not like that. The Rajba holds that it must be a shchita, meaning if you're gonna just pull out the simanim, that's still going to be a nevela. It's got to be shchita. It has to be slaughtered. It has to be cut. nervous. You don't have the halacha meshbisina. If she addresses all the halachas hilchas shchita, but what you need is like the Rashi. You need shchita. Rashi learns that the pshat is that any killing through the simanim is what's called it is shchita. Now, what is the pshat? What's the makar for this? What's the source? What's the hezbo? What's the hezbo? What's the so I guess from that alone you could say pasha for that alone the Torah is mechadish that there is a pasha of treifa, there is a pasha of nevela. There must be something. So what's the hagdar? So I wanted to say based on Rashi on Amud Aleph and the Lamaisa I found in my Kopanim and Agoda that we know that there's a concept of dam hanefesh, dam shanefesh yitzaba, right? And that's the word. And the word is that the definition of shchita is being moitzi the nefesh, before you get to the meat. That is the concept. Now, what exactly? I'm trying to suggest that Akopanim that a nevela is an animal that has in it the nefesh. The dam and nefesh is still there; it's still retained. Now, once it became a nevela, but it died with the nefesh in it, and a shchuta, even a treifa, is something that died without its nefesh. Now it gets a little bit more complicated, obviously. Why? Because what happens is, once the Torah tells you that shchita works, so now, right, once the Torah gave us hilchas shchita, so now it changes both ways. Now we expand and minimize the, right, we move the goalposts. Until now, l'mashal by ein shchita loif min Torah. So a treifa was anything that. Well, a treifa was anything that a nevela is anything that died without not ayidei simanim. Anything that didn't die anything that died ayidei simanim is called a shchut. It's not a nevela anymore, right? So the line between nevela and not nevela was if it died ayidei simanim. Now, what's going to end up happening is that we're going to have now the Torah introduces shchita, and now we somehow, and I don't know how we know this, but we move the goalpost. And now the pshat is now if somebody shechted shlo yalibed hilchasa, even though it was killed ayidei the simanim, it lives a nevela. Why is it a nevela? The teretz is because we say it must be killed, it must be geshachten in a certain way. That's very interesting. And it goes the other way also. Now that shchita sort of takes over the game now, and now it's all totally in shchita. Now after the shchita by mefarcheses, we're going to see that Gemara later on. Mefarcheses is mutter liyisrael, not to a guy. A guy doesn't have shchita, but to Yisrael it's kosher. Why? Because we had shchita. So before the Torah, or by oif, if you hold in shchita loif min Torah, the pshat is shchita is the differentiation between nevela and a treifa is if it was killed ayidei simanim. And after that. Now that the Torah gave the Torah, now that we have wherever there is a hilchas shchita or malika, the differentiation is if the shchita was done or if it wasn't done. Yeah, okay, that's a clock. I want to shtel too. I don't know if this is. I don't have a chumash here, but the pasuk says by Adam Rishon. Right, Adam Rishon wasn't he wasn't allowed to go hunting. Right, he wasn't allowed to kill any animals. But when it says, but he was allowed to eat meat. Right, he was allowed to eat meat, just not. He wasn't allowed to kill. Right. Maybe it's machlokes Rishonim, but Rashi holds like that. So over there it says that that's called hanefesh boy lachem ye'elachla. that something that has the nefesh in it, because he was talking about something that died by itself. Roadkill was mutter to him. He wasn't allowed to go hunting. He wasn't allowed to kill something ayidei simonim. He wasn't allowed to eat a treifa. He was only allowed to eat something shan nefesh boy, meaning something that what we're teaching, which means that the nefesh was never yotzei. In other words, the blood was still in it. Okay, Sagt die Gemara weiter. Okay, so that's this Allah vein shchit life min atayr. Sagt die Gemara. So now let's go frek the Gemara. In the same pasuk that of Kisei Adam that spoke about oif, and we medayik from the pasuk. Right from the fact that it says v'shafach v'chiso ba'afa, that b'shvicha ba'al masagi yachi chaya nami chaya is also mentioned in that pasuk. So chaya should also be it should be kosher just b'shvicha. Nechira should be okay. We shouldn't need shchita for a chaya. So the Gemara no iskish l'psula hamikdashim. That's going to be a drasha that the Gemara is going to say later on. That chaya we'll see soon at the end of this Gemara. It's very, very soon. And says iskish l'psula hamikdashim. So mamela what, which teaches you that you need shchita for a chaya. Frank the Gemara oif nami iskish lebehema. The chsiv zois habehema ve'oif, which is in the top of the amid, that oif was hukash to behema. So typically out them oif should also need shchita. So the Gemara chsiv v'shavach is damai. What are we going to do? The Ma'aseh is a pasuk v'shavach is damai. Or my chazis the shadya al oif shadya chaya. So why? So if the pasuk mentions oif and chaya, and we know for sure that at least one of them is going to be b'shvicha b'al masagi. So the Gemara. Sagt die Gemara, right? Yeah, Umay Chaz the Shadi Leah Oif Shadi Achaya. Sagt the Gemara, Stabra b'Shem Nesalik Minei, because the pasuk said it had just mentioned Oif, and then it said V'Shavach Ezdama. It says V'ish Ish Mibnei Yisrael Min Ager Agor B'Soichem Asher Yotzud Tzeit Chaya Oif. So the last one was Oif, so therefore it's Mestabra that the V'Shavach Ezdama is going back on Oif. And that's the oif is the thing that it's mutter b'shvicha ba'alma. I just want to mention one more kreich. That the pshat is it's very gishmak. The way we're teaching that it's the simonim, that's the lashon of shvicha b'shvicha ba'alma. Because the understanding is that the differentiation between the veil and the treifa is the differentiation is the yitzias dam han nefesh. That's b'shvicha ba'alma. That's how the Torah tells it. That's how the Torah says it. Yeah, it's b'shvicha. Okay, Zokti Marvaita Meisvei. So I heard a very interesting ha'ara. Somebody pointed out today. Yedidi, what's his name? Magachi in Tom's River, Berkowitz. I forgot what his first name is. He's mo'er that there's an unusual amount of simonim in this parak. Halei Davahu. We're talking about the simonim, the shtei simonim of the behemoths, and. Oh, in Chulin. Yeah, that's what I would have. So I think, if you learn the Gemaras, I think the reason is because there's a lot of little cases, a lot of little stories, so you have to put them together, you need a siman. But in this parak, he wanted to be more that we're learning about the siman echad be'oif and siman eshtei simanim be'behema, and there's taka a lot of simanim. Okay, so the Gemara, siman nisnabel dam b'malika. Frag the Gemara meisvei hashoichet v'nisnabla b'yadai. If somebody shechts and it became an available yadai, hanoicher v'ma'aker potem l'chasois. That what? That even if you did nechira, it's potem l'chasois. If you hold that ain't shchit loif min atayra, nechirasei zui shchitasei, and avadali bai kisoi, we need regular kisei adam. What's going on over here? Why shouldn't I need kisei? So Gemara, yeah, mi savris ba'oif loy be. I'll just pointing out. There is a shmooze. I mentioned it yesterday. There's a shmooze here, a very, very big. There's a shmooze if something is not roy la'achila midrabanon, if there's still a chi of kisei adam, and they want to bring a raya I think it's a Pri Megadim or something, and they want to bring a raya not like that from this Gemara. That from this Gemara is mavur. That even though the Gemara, even Rabbi Yitzchak Bar Pinchas is maskim that avada the shchita loif midrabana. It's just not midaraisa, and we're asking a kasha from the brisa that he should have a chiyuv kisei adam. So is a raya that ultimately it's telling him what's if it's mutter midaraisa, it's not telling him if it's mutter midrabana. Yeah. That's the kasha. Zok Gemara no misavis boif lechaya. With that Mishnah is talking about nisnabla b'yada. Is talking about by a chaya. It's not talking about all animals anyway, because it's not talking about by a behema. There's no kisei adam by a behema. But akaponim by a chaya. We thought it was talking about by a oif and a chaya. Zok Gemara no. It's talking about only by a. We could easily learn that Mishnah. The Mishnah is talking about only by a chaya, not by a oif. And this we are assuming is talking about by a oif. Tashma hashoichet v'tzarich ledam. If somebody wants to slaughter an animal and he's not interested in the food, what he's interested is he needs the blood. And we'll see, why do I need blood? So the Gemara we're going to see. The Gemara assumes that what I need blood for is there was a process. It's the Gemara later on in Elu Treifus. And I don't know. I did some research on it, and nobody knew about this process nowadays. They don't know where it comes from. But the point is, if somebody has clothing moths, they like to eat the there's like an oil on Pishton, not on Pishton, not on Pishton. Even more later on, is mashma Pishton. But they like to eat the oils on wool. Yeah. So anyway, and they end up they make holes. They ruin the begadim, right? So and the way they would take care of it was they would use the blood. They would somehow the blood scares away these moths, right? That was the mahalach. So here, a guy normally when he shechts, he makes kisei adam. He's going to make kisei adam. He's not going to be able to have the blood for his extermination process over here. So what's his eitzah? The eitzah is you have to do if somebody shechts and he needs the blood, there's nothing you can do. If you shechted, you chayiv l'chasis. Keitzad u'oisa. What do you do if you need it? Keitzad u'oisa. Oy neichroi. Oy oikroi. Yeah, neichroi. Either you should cut it down the from the throat to the stomach, or you just uproot the samanim, and that way they didn't have a kosher shchita. If it didn't have a kosher shchita, you won't be mechuyev shvichas adam in kisei adam. Frak the Gemara moving to Amud Aleph, my love ba'oif. Must be we're talking about by oif. The kaboyle lidame. What does he need the blood for? Lianicha. What's that? This moth, this clothing moth. I didn't know much about it, but I got some pictures. 1 second. This is what the clothing moth looks like. This is a small, and this is what it looks like. It's a worm in the worm state. But anyway, this is what it is. Yeah. So this is the clothing moth. And the Gemara assumed that what the gaboy leilidame lianiche. Yeah. Zok the Gemara. So it's a raya, and the Mishnah says that I can't shecht. If I'm going to shecht, I'm not going to be mechuyev kisei adam. Why am I not going to be mechuyev kisei adam? Because I didn't shecht. Who cares? Ain't shchita loif min haTorah. Yeah. So tomorrow loy bechaya. The kaboy loy lidame le'laka. That he needs the blood for dying purposes, and he needs it for dying purposes. So therefore, he's not gonna and that's why he can't do kisei hadam. He's gonna do the Mishnah is saying he should do a what's called it akira. So I don't have a what's it called it I saw somebody was writing up about it. He says Besides that, we don't use blood fakert. We don't use blood to scare away these moths. But even if you did use blood to scare away these moths, he says scientifically there's not much of a difference in the blood of a bird and the blood of an animal, of a chaya. So what's the pshat? Why would they only use blood of a bird for the moths and not the blood of a chaya? What was the Gemara's name? It was the first Gemara assumed it's the blood of a oif. Why? Because that's what you use for the moths, right? So Gemara, no, I found a different usage. I used it for the dye, right? So the muching, what's the difference between the blood of a bird and blood of a moth of a chaya? So, but I want to say like this. The Gemara says that the Mishnah is talking about a case where he doesn't want to do kisei adam. Why does he want to do kisei adam? Because he's not going to have blood. And if you have a chaya and a behema, you have plenty of blood. The teretz is what? The teretz must be that you're using the teretz is I only have a knife, and since I only have a knife, so I have a minimal amount of blood. Zok the Gemara, no, he's using it for dyeing process. Dyeing process is not just a little extermination project. He has dyeing process. He has a whole bunch of hides, and he has to use it. So Mabela, he needs a lot of blood from a chaya, but not that the pshat is that there's a difference in between the bloods, in between the blood of a chaya and the blood of an oif, benegea the extermination. The difference was that the Gemara assumed that for extermination he doesn't need a whole chaya's blood. He could do a kisei adam and use the rest of the blood. Sagt die Gemara, Toshma, ma lag besakin, mitame begadim abeis abli. If he did malika, meaning that he cut from the mafrekes down, right, the neck, the back, starting from the back. Malak besakin mitame begadim abeis abliya. It becomes what? It becomes a nevela. It's nivla soiftar. Frekti gemara vi amrit ein shchit loif ben atayra. So if you can say ein shchit loif ben atayra, so if you don't have shchit loif ben atayra, so what's the difference between a nevela and a treifa? Is if you cut the semanim. So I cut the semanim. Neinami dechitava leishedra umafrekes havila treifa. I understand that when I cut the mafrekes, it becomes a treifa. But the hani la sakin litara midei nevela, because I cut through the two simonim, so it should be a what's called, it should be a treifa. Yeah, that's the most kasha. And for the Gemara, the other Mishnah is not going to stem. Who the Tanya? Reb Lezak Kfar Beribi Oimer Matam Loima Ach Kasha Yoichel Esatzvi. This is the pasuk that we said before, that it's Iskish Lipsule Hamikdashim. That what? That Chaya is Iskish Lipsule Hamikdashim, because the pasuk says that the pasuk is being mater basataiva, or it's being mater Psule Hamikdashim. The two ways how to read that pasuk. If you remember, we were married about this earlier. The Ramban. And the pasuk says, "Ach kasher yochel satzvi v'sa'ayol ken yechlenu hatam v'ator yachtov." That what? That the Torah is being matter, just like you could eat a tzvi and ayol, right? Now, a tzvi, which is a deer, and a ayol, not a ayol, not a ram, a ayol, which is a gazelle. And Reb Lezer ben Kfar says Beribi, he was a big ladar. What do we learn now from tzivayol? Vayol me'ata harezabal l'amidim salamed. It seems like from the pasuk that we're trying to compare Psulim Hamikdashim to tzivayol. That tzivayol is coming to teach you something. V'nim salamed. But we're learning out tzivayol from behema. Makish tzivayol Psulim Hamikdashim. Ma Psulim Hamikdashim, which are behemoths, is b'shchita. That alone, that we know it's b'shchita because it says v'shachat af tzivayol b'shchita. So Mela, here's a pasuk that it says clearly. This is the drasha of Psulim Hamikdashim. Iskish Psulim Hamikdashim that tzivayol is learned out from that the chaya is learned out from behema. Iskish Psulim Hamikdashim. And then he fears ois. Reb Lezer Kfar says, "For oif ein l'shchita midivrei Torah midivrei seifrim." So here's mafurish. Reb Lezer Kfar Beribi is clearly saying that oif is ein l'shchita midivrei Torah midivrei seifrim. Yeah, man tana de polygalei Reb Lezer Kfar. So what would we have said? What we have said when the Gemara asked the kasha, who's the one that argues Rav Lezer ben Akvar? What's our question? We just said a Mishnah. We just had a case of Hamolik Besakin, and that was a question that we couldn't be miyashiv, right? We had no eight, so man tana de Polgalei Rav Lezer Akvar Beribi Rav Lezer Akvar Rebbe, yeah. But what's the Gemara's kasha? Mantana de Polygalates. We should have explained that the Gemara's kasha is on who's the man that says Besakin. But Rashi does not say that. Rashi says it's going back on the Gemara before. And Mashal asks, what's the pshat? That it's going on the Gemara before. The Gemara before we will miyasha very nicely. That it's talking about doing he wants to save the blood. The reason why there's no shvichas there's no kisei adam. The reason why there's no kisei adam is because we're talking about a chaya. That Gemara we were miyashiv. The problem is this Gemara. For some reason, Rashi wants to say Mantana the Palgalei Rav Lezer Akvar is this man da Amar. The Katani Noichro Yaikrai, the Polygalated the Rav Lezer Akvar. Why are we asking from there? Okay, yeah, okay. Zok the Gemara, Bekitz. Zok the Gemara, the Tanya, Rabbi Omer, Vizav Achto. Kasher tzivi sicha. The pasuk says, Hakadosh Baruch Hu told Moshe Rabbeinu, "Vizavachta, you should shecht." Kasher tzivi sicha, like I had commanded you sometime before. Where's that? What is that? Melamed shenitztave Moshe ala veshet v'ala kona v'al roiv echad ba'oif v'al roiv shnayim bebehema. Oh, alechlam mishmisinai. Now, there is an interessant Rashi. Rashi says, Zok Rashi, Roiv Echad, Lav Mikra Yolif, Ela Kloima Al Hilcha Shchita Nitztave. What's Rashi saying?
It seemed obvious.
We just said, Kashet Tzivisicha La Mention is Parashalei Mitzvah Shchita Al Peh, the Hechet Tziveu B'Ksav. Right? So what's Rashi saying? What's Rashi saying? The teretz is very pashto what Rashi is saying. Rashi is coming la'afuke pashtis Tosfos, because Tosfos says yesh mefarshim. Zok Tosfos yesh mefarshim the dorish begematria the asher the asher aleph shin reish is aleph is echad boif and shin is shnayim bebehema and reish is ruba shel echad kabayu. Yeah, so it's asher is aleph one shnayim and Rubai. And Tosfos says another one that Kasher is also Rashi Tevis. Kasher is Rashi Tevis backwards. Rubai shel echad kamayu. Right? Rubai shel echad kamayu. Yeah? As I sagt Tosfos. So come Rashi to say Nishtazay. Right? Yeah? What, right? That's Rashi's. Why is Rashi saying not like that? Because the word is because Rashi's insisting right? That it's a not that we're learning it from here, that it's Nestav Moshe, right? But I want to turn it like this. So what does Tosfos hold? What's Tosfos hold? Tosfos is not masking it's Alachal Mishmisina. What do the Yesh Mefarshim hold? So I want to taina that the whole shmuz over here is one little vav. Tosfos was geiris of vav, like we have in front of us. Ve'al roiv echad ba'oif al roiv shnai bebehema. So like this. Melamed shenitztav Moshe ala veshet v'ala kona, and the al roiv echad ba'oif v'al roiv shnai bebehema. So it's kasher tzivi sicha. There's two things. There's the kasher and there's the tzivi sicha. Melamed shenitztav Moshe ala veshet v'ala kona, and then there's the al roiv echad ba'oif al roiv shnai bebehema is a different thing. Mashenkein Rashi, if you look at Rashi, Rashi was not Geiris the Vav. Rashi was Geiris Roy Vechad. Yeah, Roy Vechad, not Vir Roy Vechad. So Memela, so if Roy Vechad, if Memela, if Roiv Echad, if this is all part of Mamish and Estava Moshe al Avesh Valakona al Roiv Echad Ba'oif al Roiv Shnayim Behema, so it must be that the pshat is since it's all one run-on sentence, so you can't split it up. So since you can't split it up, so Memela, so Rashi had to learn that it's all not this gematria, and Mashen Kain Tosis was able to falai the two things. First of all, Moshe was in the stav of the Veshva Akana. That was stam halacha mishmisina, and Rei Vechad Boiv and Rei Vechad Shnai Bebehema is a separate halacha. To leave off with one little thing. The Balaturim, I didn't check his math, but the Balaturim says that Kasha Tzivisicha is begematria Roiv Echad Boiv and Roiv Shnai Bebehema. I don't know. You'll really, yeah. But anyway, that's this Gemara. Okay, so the Gemara Vaita. Oh, so now we're going to talk about the Vesh and the Kana. Let's just start with this Gemara, and then we'll go through what a Vesh. What? The show and tell. Yeah. Echad ba'oif itmar. Yeah. So what? Kipshuta. Versteht in the Mishnah. The Mishnah says that by behema you need roiv or either two or roiv of two, right? And by oif you need one or roiv of either one. That's kipshutoy. So tomorrow it's a machlekes. Itmar of Nachman Amar oiv veshet oikana. By oif you could do the roiv of either the veshet or the kana. Ravad barava, and Ravad is the speak kiddush. Ravad barava's halacha says Amar veshet v'loy kana. Dafka the veshet and not the kana. You can't do the shchita in the kana at all, and it comes out kipshutai, and this is how some achronim learn la halacha, that comes out that the kana is completely not is b'chlal not negaya by oif, because by oif I always need roiv of the veshet, right? And if I nicked the kana or not, it's irrelevant. It doesn't make a difference. It's mamish irrespective. What's the difference between the kana and the veshet? Because the halacha is that the kana, to make it a treifa, I need roiv the kana to be cut. Mashenke by the veshet, even a little hole is in the kivasa b'mashu. So memela, its lifeline is much more totally in the veshet, and therefore the veshet is what plays the whole role, like Ravad Barava, and nothing to do with the kana. Okay, so that's the what's good. Let me just put on my gloves over here. So we have over here. This is the kana, just the kana. These are the tabois. And if you could see carefully, you see the chulius, how it goes right next to each other. We were just showing how what Taisus Kasha and Rashi is. That it's so hard to get, like Rav and Shmuel. How would you get through? How would you make sure to be in between the chulius? Sounds very, very difficult. Anyway, over here would have gone the veshet. The veshet was here, right? Here, they're only a half a U, and this is the veshet, right? This is a half of a U, and this is the veshet. The veshet runs along here. Over here, it's soft. This is the basar that Rashi says. Rashi calls this the basar that connects it. And here we already have the top of the neck, and here's the chiti. Inside is the chiti. If I can get it for the camera, that's the chiti inside, and over here would be the koiva. No, the koiva is taken off, I guess. But here's the veshet. What's important is the veshet. The veshet. These are the on top is the veshet, and the veshet is collapsed, obviously, because it's not being held by any cholyos. But if you put in your finger, you see the outer part is red. And that's why when there's a nikuv, you can't check it. It gets blood, you wouldn't be able to tell it. But the inside is white. You see that the inside is the inner skin. It looks like it's two separate skins. It looks like it's mamish two separate skin. We're going to see about that as Hashem today and later on. That the inside is mamish white. I hope that comes out in the camera. Here it's sticking out, the white. It's coming out. Okay, gewaldig. That's this shtickle. Okay, let's go weiter. Okay. So now we have a machlokes of Nachman and Ravad Bar Rava. Rav Nachman says that Avada or Oif is Echsheira either Vesher or Lekana. Mashenkin, that's what Rav Nachman holds. But Ravad Bar Rava holds this Gevaldige Chiddush, that since the Veshet is much more tenuous, so it must be you must shecht in the veshet and not in the kana at all. Now here's a kedai to a lom the shayla over here. So l'chura kipshutai, the kana is irrelevant b'chalal legabe oif at all, right? Let Ravad Bar Rava. So much so that the Shita B'Gebetza says that Leit Ravad Bar Rava, the only way you could shecht is by being mahapech to simonim. Why? Because every time you're going to shecht, if shchita is only made in the veshet, and I'm going to shecht through the kana to get to the veshet, right? What's the it's a treifa. Right? So Zok Shita B'Gebetza says that Avada, the only way Avada Bar Rava shechted was only by being mahapech to simonim. Because once you cut through Roiv of the Kana, it's a treifa. And I didn't get it. And so normal. But that's only if it's shchita, if it's shaykh to shchita. But later Ravad Bar Rava, what the Shita says, it says no shaykh to shchita. Shchita is cutting the veshet. Roiv of the veshet. So what do you want to say?
That's the chefs of shchita.
So
that's not the matir, but that's
the but here's the part. So the Cholkim hold that Benegea what is the vesh? Benegea what is the kana a chelik? Benegea what is the kana mentioned? Where Benegea what is the kana a chelik of shchita? Benegea the skufa that it's a chelik of the shchita.
But keeping matir is
yeah, rather it's not a matir, and it's irrespective of how much I caught. But Benegea what is it a chelik of shchita? Benegea. That it doesn't become a treifa, it's a chelik of the shchita. That's a morid gezach. That's a morid yeah, and it's machlis shchita. Right. Yeah. The word is it's still part of the simonim, and it's still part of the simonim. It's still right. Still, since it's still part of the simonim, it becomes part of the simonim that it still could be considered that I'm doing part of the shchita. Yeah. And this is negaya. The shaila is negaya also. If you remember, there's a machlokes rishonim. It's machlokes Rashi in the Bahag. Right? What's the word? Oh, I wanted to show this too. I forgot to mention it. I forgot to mention it this morning. That this knage that we were saying that the definition of shchita is the dam nefesh, taking out the dam nefesh through the simonim. That's the pshat. That now it's much better Rashi with Akira Simonim that Rashi says that Akira is a problem because it's a shchita. Why is it a shchita? Mitvas is a shchita. Fact is, it's not a shchita. If you Akira Simonim, I didn't do a shchita. The teretz is that's what it means because as long as I killed with Simonim, once I was shaved the down with the Simonim, Avad it's a shchita. Anything past that is already hilchas shchita of Halach L'Moshe Misinai. Yeah, that would be for that machlokes Rashi and Taisus. But there's a machlokes Rashi in the Bahag. What happens if you oiker a simon? If you oiker a simon, is it now going to be a nevela or is it going to be a treifa? Right. So Rashi says it's one of the five. Rashi says it's going to be a treifa. Rashi assumes it's going to be a treifa. Like the Bahag, it's going to be a nevela. Why is it going to be a nevela? Why is it going to be a nevela? Because one of the chamesh halachas, but otherwise it's not going to be a nevela. That's the chiddush of the Bahag, right? It's not going to be a treifa. It'll never be a treifa. It becomes a nevela if you're oiker a samanim. frek the base mayor, why is it an avela? I uproot the windpipe, and then I'll do a proper shechita. Why am I doing a proper shechita? Because the shechita is anyways only on the veshet. Right? So we hear also with tiny this vart. The same vart that you're saying, but on the other way. That the pshat is that it's not only a kula, the fact that the kana is included in the shechita, but it's also a chumrah, that the pshat is that it's possible, even though the shechita is gemak gevarn, even though I can only be yoytz to the shechita, the severing of the veshet, but lemaisa, if I'm oike the kana before I sheikh the veshet, then it bleibs in avela. Why is it bleib in avela? I am going to do a complete proper shechita. I'm going to cut the veshet completely. The teretz is that it's still part of the semanim, and right this word that it's still part of the semanim. It just happens to be that I can't be a mekayim the shechita. It's not unless I did a rive in the veshet. Okay, good, Clar? Yeah, but this is very, very good. Okay. This is the shaila. I believe who asks it. Reb Shimon says about the Beis Meis Kasha, and I think he's saying this. He says this lumdus. He says he doesn't understand what the Beis Meis Kasha was. What the Beis Meis Kasha was, he assumed that it won't be right. It won't be an avail because of this kasha. Okay, good. Givaldik. Good. Sakti Marvait. Let's move on. Yeah. Sakti Gemara. No, we're going to go at least till the base. So let's talk tomorrow. Oh. So now the Gemara says, what do we do with the Mishnah? Any one. The Mishnah says echad. Echad means any one. The Mishnah says echad. My echad miyuchad. It's the echad. The one. Rashi says the one that the nefesh is totally right. Yeah? Yeah? Okay, good. So do my right. Here's another simon. Gargaris Pegima Dechatas Oif. Meisvei Frikti Marakasha. Shachat Veshet. If somebody shecht the Veshet, the Achakach Nishmita Gargaris. So here's a Shailin Svekis. We're going to see. If he shechted the Veshet, shecht the Veshet, so that's a simon echad he's done. The Achach Nishmita Gargaris, the Gargaris slipped out. Because who cares? Who cares if it was nishmita? But the reverse. Nishmita Gargaris V'achach Shachat Veshet. Psula. Right? Why is it psula? Because it was nishmita gargaris, right? So if the gargaris got pulled out before the shchitas haveshet, so it's psula. Yeah. Shachares haveshet v'nimtzes gargaris shemutav. Any idem im koidim shchita nishmata im lacha shchita nishmata. Zohayim ma'asav amakol safik b'shchita psula. Right? And this is going back to chazakis. What's the reason? What's the vart? It could be it's a because it has a cheskes iser from Evim and Achai. Yeah, and maybe machzikim isel iser. Whatever the pshat is, yeah, we don't have time to be marich in this Gemara. Whatever it is, that's the case. In fact, the Gemara, why is the case of the Mishnah talking about always shachat the veshet and nishmata gargaris? Why not the reverse? Teretz is right. That the shchita has to be on the veshet. Ilu shchita begargaris leikatani. Because we're talking about what's the likely thing to happen. The veshet doesn't normally slip out. The gargaris does. The gargaris avidah l'shtamuti. Tashma. Shochat shnei chatzoi simanim beoif psola. If he shechted two halves of a oif of two halves of the simanim by the oif psola, because he didn't do a rive of either one. It's not going to help you. You need two halves. You need a rive of either one. Because behema I need rive of two. Rabbi Yehuda beoif. We're going to see this in Amud Beis, that dafka by oif, because we're going to see by oif there's a bigger problem of blood. Why is there a bigger problem of blood? Because oif is something that you could eat a whole Cornish head together. You could roast it all together. Mashenke by behema, you're obviously going to be eating it, cutting it in parts, and therefore there's more more of a way for the blood to run. By oif, make sure you should check the veshet and the vridim, right? So what do we want to bring a raya from here? It's a gavaldig raya. Why did he say the veshet? Why did he say the veshet? Why didn't he say the kana and the vridim? But if Rabbi Yehuda is just being moisif the vridim, why did he mention the veshet? Teretz is, it must be that Rabbi Yehuda holds that it must be by the oif. It's always the veshet. So no, mishum the veshet samach levridim. So be'emes, this is something that I really want to be marich on. Where exactly the vridim are? The what's called the Sichas Chulin is ma'arich about different shitas, so where the vridim are, and what's the pshat in this Gemara? That the Gemara says that the veshet is samach levridim. But anyway, we'll see. It's not so clear exactly which exactly veins or arteries we're discussing when we're talking about the vridim. Okay, Zok Gemara Vaita, but there are obviously some major blood vessels that are in the neck. Zok Gemara Tashma Shachat Chatzi Gagaras Shah. If he shechted a half a gargeres, which is the koneh, v'shah, and he waited, he hesitated, kidei shchita acheres, v'gamar, right? So it's no problem because why? Because it's not a treifa until you have roiv of the koneh, so it's no problem. You cut it, who cares, right? Nothing happened yet because until you get through roiv of the gargeres, nothing happened, right? But then it says v'gamar shchitasa ikshera. So we thought that gamar shchitasa means he finished off the gargeres that he had started. That was the pashtus of how to read it. My love ba'oif umay gamra gamra legargeres. That he's gama that he finished off the gargeres, just that little roiv, and that was the shechita as a kasher and vad barav, because you're having shechita just by gargeres. My garma the gargeres loy bebehema. My garma the shechita kula. We're not talking about just finishing off that one gargeres. We can even be talking about by the behema. The garma shechita means he finished off the whole shechita, right? And it could be, so it could be by behema, it could be by if it doesn't make a difference, right? Behema means even by behema. Tashma, the same kind of question. He came off, he showed up to class with a chatzi kana pagum. And the guy came v'hoisefol of koshu, and he just finished off on the gageres of koshu, the gamroi shchitasa kshera. So kipshutai, the way we read it is in one big thing. V'hoisefol of koshu, the gamroi is one big thing. That he just added on to the gageres of mashu, and that alone is shchitasa kshera. Is a kasher of vad barava. That you see that the shchita could be done by just a mashu in the gageres, arrive at the gageres. He holds you need the veshet. So my love b'oifu my Gamra the kana, and Gamra that the koshu who is the Gamra b'shchita. So tomorrow loy bibehema or my Gamra leveshet. So in other words, like this, it's v'hoisev alav koshu. He's oisev alav koshu on the kana. The Gamra leveshet. So he had a roiv on the kana and a gamra l'shchitasa on the veshet, and that's so v'hoisav of koshu v'gamra is two separate things. Hoisav of koshu on the kana and v'gamra is going on the veshet. Tashma, so you don't have a raya not like Ravad Barabba. So tomorrow tashma ketzad moken this is the big kasha ketzad moken l'chatz oif choyteich shedra umafrekes b'loy roiv basa. He makes sure not to do roiv basa because otherwise it's going to be in a veilo. Achamal giyah leveshet oy lekana. Either the veshet or the kana, higia leveshet or the kana, choytech simen echad, either one, v'roiv basa imay, and then he goes back and does some of the roiv basa imay. Uba by oilas ha'oif, that was that by chatas ha'oif you're supposed to make sure that the v'lo yavdol. By the oilas ha'oif, you do avdol. By oilas shnayim, by roiv shnayim, you make sure to cut two someone. Tiyufta the Ravad Barava, Tiyufta is a Moedige Kasha because we have Versha Mishnah Brisa that says that I could cut either the kveshet or the kana. My havi Allah. Then the Gemara asks, my havi Allah. What do you mean, my havi Allah? We just fragged up Ravad Barava. What's your question? My havi Allah could be we just fragged up Ravad Barava. So tomorrow, the truth is that it's a kasha, and we said Tiyufta, Ravad Barava Tiyufta, but there's still yesh. We're still not sure because we could be only over there. What was the whole mile of the veshet? That the veshet is because the whole life is totally in the veshet because the veshet is so tedious, right? Because even a little hole makes a difference. So Gemara, maybe it's only over there, and that's why a kana is not enough because a kana is the animal's more resilient about the kana. But maybe that's all. If you didn't get to malika. But once you got to a malika and you already cut out the shedrin and mafrekas, then already just the kana would be enough. So again, I just want to say one more lumdis. This kind of a svara that the Gemara is saying is obvious that the pshat is because we already knew that they're both simanim. They're both simanim. It's not like the pshat is the veshet is the whole thing. They're both simanim. It's just that it happens to be that I need to make sure to get the veshet, but I need to get it's. B'kitzur, Rav Ada bar Ava's halacha was not a chiddush in the shtei simanim. It was a chiddush in the echad ba'oif. In the echad ba'oif, it has to be the miyuchad shabayif. But it's not a chiddush in what the kana is, or better gesagt, like the Gemara said before. Melamed shenitztava Moshe ala veshet v'ala kana v'al roiv echad ba'oif v'al roiv shnayim b'behema. So he taught about the veshet and the kana. And the roiv echad ba'oif, roiv v'shnayim. So on the roiv echad ba'oif, that's where the chiddush, that's where the machlekes Rav Ada bar Ava and Rav Nachman is. Yeah, okay. Vayt zet gemara vayt. My toshma dahu bar Avza, and this is something we have to discuss with this picture over here, with this gargaris. You'll see this. Dahu bar Avza, the hava bei rava. There was a bar Avza is a goose. The hava bei rava also kimemasmes kui. It showed up kimemasmes kui dama. Its neck was full of blood. So something happened there, they don't know what happened, right? And the problem is we have to make a bedika. So what am I checking? I want to make sure, otherwise I could always go b'chazaka that it's not a treifa. But here I have to make sure to see if it's a treifa. I have to check if the windpipe is whole, or if the veshet is whole. Now, Amar Rava, hechi never, what should we do? Neshchitei. If I'm going to shecht it, v'hada nivkid and v'hada nivdikei, and then afterwards I'm going to check it. Dilma b'mokim nekev kashachit. Maybe I'm going to be severing going through the hole, and I'm going to shecht where the hole is. What am I going to do? Right now, right? Nivdikei v'hada nishchitei. I'll open up the skin and I'll check it before the shchita. So be very geschmack. So I will preempt any knife. There won't be a problem of b'makom nekev kashachit. So the Gemara ha'amar Rabba veshet ein lo bedika b'bachutz. Right? A veshet, like what we said, since the veshet is red in the outside and it's only white inside, so if you want to check for a nekev, you can't check. How do you check for a nekev? You check for a nekev, you see a dot. A dot you won't come up in the outside because the outside is red anyway, right? The only way you would see a dot is only by seeing the inner side, which we showed before. The inner side is white. There you'll see a dot. So the way you check the veshet is that you turn it inside out and you look through the white. But I can't do that over here because it's alive, right? So veshet ein lebedika b'bachutz ela b'bifnim. Amalei Rabbi Yosef Berei. So Rabbi Yosef, his son, said, Nivdikei lekana. Very simple. We'll take off the skin. We'll check, and we'll be boidik the kana first before shchita. Then nishchitei, because that I could check before. Shchita. Then nishchitei lekana. I'll cut the kana and don't touch the veshet. Right? And then afterwards, once it's already I'm still keeping the veshet intact. The sakin is not even getting close to the veshet. Then I will take off the veshet and I'll turn it inside out and I'll be able to check it from the inside. Very gishmak eitza. Amarava chakim Yosef b'ri b'treifus k'Rabbi Yochanan. He was so proud of his son that knew treifus like Rabbi Yochanan. We'll see later on that Rabbi Yochanan was a baki in treifus. So in that case, clearly his eitzah was clearly to do a shchita only in the gagaris and not in the veshet. So we see from the klar that echad means that we paskin is taka the gagaris. Echad means oi hai, And the Rashba read Zoy, the Rosh read Zois. If you remember, we started off at the beginning of the parak that it says Hashoiche b'diavad din l'chatchila loy, and one of the terutzim was that it's a echad ba'oif that avad l'chatchila you need both. Zok the Rosh, but this is already called b'diavad. This is called b'diavad because we had no other eitzah of being machshel this oif, so it would be mutter. Yeah, I just want to say one more knech over here in Rashi. I don't understand exactly. Maybe I'm reading something. Maybe I'm reading something wrong. The Rashash and the Matzchias are very bothered by this Rashi. The Rashi says Nivdeke lekana. Rashi says, you know why Nivdeke lekana? Shakana nivdek mibachotz lefi she'eina nitref ela b'roif. Right? You know why the kana is nivdak mibachotz? Because it's only nitref ela b'roif. Right? So they want to know, forget about the roiv. What about the roiv? I just they want to know why does it say nivdek lekana means shakana nivdek mibachotz? That the reason is because the kana could be checked from outside. Forget about being checked from outside. The kana is white. The kana is white, so you'll be able to see a hole in the kana. Forget about the fact that its hole is roy. It's that it's only nefso b'roiv. So I understood. I wanted to be miyashiv Rashi, but why is Rashi bringing it down? It needs a pshat. Why is Rashi bringing it down? That Rashi is saying that I could be boidik without taking off the skin. That's what I thought Rashi is saying. But the shayla is why Rashi is saying. Where did Rashi see that in the Gemara? Okay, I guess we'll leave it here. And Bez Hashem tomorrow we're gonna have to catch up. Tomorrow on Shabbos, Bez Hashem.
The next question, yes,